Let's see.
There it is.
I clicked this. Hello.
Oh, this is so weird. Like, my head's about to explode.
Okay, so for those of you who are just like, what are you guys doing? Okay, this is the second time we're going live, and you might be like, oh, but Kathy, you were just talking to us in the comments. Yes, I was. And Stacy and I were going live to each other, and there's only one place I can click on here. So there were two things I could click. Go live with Stacy today at 2, or my class for Wednesday. So it's not like I literally had 2 buttons to choose from, picked that button, and it didn't come in. So
Everything looked like we were live.
right, so I went ahead and stopped it, and usually what that will do is make it go away forever. So thanks, YouTube, for whatever weirdness that happened. And Stacy, you're kind of going in and out just a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I think it's getting better now. It's just a little fuzzy. But, so, let's go back to the beginning going, yay, hello everyone, we've missed you. We are back from the abyss again. And I'm going to let Stacy introduce herself to you guys who might not know her yet, but you should, because she is an awesome Starch Solution Support Specialist who helped Cheryl and I and a bunch of other people we know.
Yep.
And this is the time and the place to ask your questions about the McDougall Starch Solution.
Absolutely.
Okay, Stacy, take it away.
All right. Hello, everybody. Good to finally be actually with you. I'm so glad we got it all figured out. My name is Stacy Cross. I am a support specialist, a registered nurse, and I work for the McDougall 12-day online program. It is a really fun place where patients come through. We give them all kinds of lectures and instructional sessions about cooking demos, all the main, lifestyle related diseases, how to overcome those with dietary change and lifestyle change. We go over food and food's effect on the body and how you can leverage the information that we teach, all of the wonderful education that we give to live your best life and feel your best and overcome your illnesses and ailments, to hopefully kick some of your medications to the curb and live just a more vibrant and enjoyable life. So it's a joy and a privilege to do what I do. It is a joy to be here with all of you. I feel like it's been a while. I guess it's only been a month, but it seems like longer than that. And I love answering questions. So if you have any questions today, please write them into the chat. I'm sure that Cheryl and Kathy will be keeping an eye on that and will throw them out to me. But I'm happy to talk about anything and everything. So please fire away. I just wanted to let you all know we do have an upcoming program in May. And I was just about to pull that up, when is it? I'm just like blanking on the date, but I've got it right here. Hang on. It's May 2nd through the 13th. That's our next live online program, 12-day program. And if you want to find out more about it, I think Kathy's going to put the link to information about the 12-day program in the chat, but we would love to have you and help you along your health journey in that way. We only have 3 programs left for the year. We've got May, July, and October. So jump in. We'd be happy to have you.
I'm getting that link
Right
now.
Fabulous. So any questions or anything you guys wanted to chat about today?
So far, I put out a call for questions. You guys, if you don't have questions too, please remember you can talk about your wins here or ask for support on something that you're having trouble with. So if you're starting the Starch Solution, maybe you've read the book and you have a couple of questions like that, you don't have to have gone through the 12-day program to ask any of your questions. So it's a great way to learn what's going on.
Yeah,
and Elizabeth is here. Beth is here. So many people are here. It's good to see all of you guys so much. Here we go. And then the link I'm going to put in, it's got the May, July, and October programs. And a cute picture of Dr. Lim. So if you haven't seen him, he's a cutie patootie.
He is total cutie, but he has recently let his hair grow out, which is so wild to
Oh
me.
no.
His hair is
Oh,
so
I gotta
long right
see.
now.
Do you have a
I hope he
picture?
sees this.
I'm
I
like,
don't have a picture. I don't.
maybe that would be another thing, like Dr. Lim posters.
Yeah, yeah. No, I should definitely tell him you said that. He
Or a
is
calendar
so
or
he's
t-shirts.
he is so easily embarrassed. It will be my delight and my joy to take this to him and make this suggestion. And I will tell him, hey, if there's demand for a calendar and some posters and some t-shirts. I'm just saying, the ladies are asking. The ladies want what the ladies want.
Oh, that would be so funny. That would be really good.
That's good.
Yes.
So while you guys, yeah, oh, Elizabeth's like, oh my God, Dr. Lim calendar. You would totally buy it. Like, okay, so
That's
we were
amazing.
cruising with Elizabeth last week on the Celebrity Ascent. And oh, we were watching this thing, and there were these two really muscular guys who did some like acrobatic gymnastic stuff. Like this guy's like hanging on by holding onto a finger or something. It was crazy. But the first thing they did is take off their shirts, and they were all muscly. And Elizabeth's eyes got like the size of dinner plates. So I think
We calling you out, Elizabeth.
oh, okay, here, this is Elizabeth, literally. I've got to put this up so you guys know that I'm not making this up about Elizabeth's awesome. Elizabeth, January, Dr. Lim climbing a tree. February, Dr. Lim swimming in a lake. Oh my God!
Y'all,
So I
he's
want a
gonna
percentage
die.
of this, is all I have to say.
I just want you to know, this feels like Christmas morning to me. The thought that I'm going to get to call him right after I get off this live and tell him that we talked about this, because he will be so embarrassed. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. He is
Elizabeth's
a
hilarious.
precious, adorable person, and
No, and the thing is how I really think of him too is like, kind of like this precious, emotionally aware. Like when he talks to me, I feel like he's just like coating me in a warm, fuzzy blanket. And so it
Yeah.
is kind of funny. But, you know, you can be sensitive and a hottie. It's not
for
mutually
sure.
exclusive.
Yeah, definitely.
So, since we don't have any questions right now, I will ask a couple of questions. So, since food is getting a little more expensive right now, what are some of the really great things to eat? Or if you're thinking of starting to do the Starch solution, maybe what would your first grocery shop be, Stacy?
Oh man, that's so exciting to think of that first grocery haul. Well,
I love a
dry
grocery shop.
beans. Yes, dry beans. You honestly, you cannot get cheaper than dry beans, dry grains, potatoes, corn, frozen fruits and vegetables, canned fruits and vegetables, fresh fruits and vegetables. You know, I hate it for the world at large how expensive groceries are right now, but it really is really fascinating and illuminating to see how expensive animal based foods are right now compared to the plant based foods. Now, one thing we hear a lot and see a lot out there in the world is people saying, I can't go plant based. It's so expensive. It's so pricey. It, doesn't work with my budget at all, which is so interesting and fascinating because it is clear that what they're talking about are these highly processed, packaged, frozen, and shelf stable things. So we're talking about, like super highly processed meat substitutes and frozen meals and frozen pizzas and the plant-based egg substitutes and things like that, which, yeah, they are expensive. I mean, they are, no doubt about it. But even when you compare those items to meat and eggs and dairy right now, and cheese being dairy, of course, um, still less expensive than those things at the moment for the most part. But those are not the foods that we are talking about you switching over to. We're not trying to get you to have tofu roni instead of pepperoni, right? We are trying to have you move in the direction of whole plant foods. It doesn't have to happen all at once overnight, okay? That's, for some people that works incredibly well. That's what we did, my husband and I. We went 100% overnight. I didn't even really know about all the processed options. I just thought beans, rice, corn, quinoa, barley, oatmeal. For whatever reason, when we made our switch from the standard American diet to vegan, we just happened to end up in the Whole Foods to begin with. So that was good. That was serendipitous because that is ultimately where we ended up as well. But they are so incredibly inexpensive. I mean, we're talking about for beans and rice, like $1, $2 max per pound. And that's dry poundage. So when you cook it, you get even more for that. So, a bag of dried beans, if you can learn how to cook a bag of dry beans or a bag of dry, rice, my goodness, there's nothing cheaper than that. I highly recommend the Instant Pot for that kind of thing. I cook my rice, my beans, my potatoes, oatmeal, soups, all in the Instant Pot. It's just so quick and mindless and easy. So that's the direction I would go. And fruits and vegetables are still relatively inexpensive. Yes, some things have gone up, and some things are just going up because of inflation and the fact that things always go up, right? But nothing too outrageous like what we're seeing with eggs, right? So that would be my recommendation. Stick with whole plant foods.
I love that. And one of the things that Apple had said, like stick with peasant food. And it kind of
Yes.
is like you can, and if you live in a place that has like an Indian market, a Hispanic market, those are great places to get great prices on beans and rice. If but someone else mentioned Aldi and Walmart. Walmart is everywhere. And
Yes.
you can get a lot of specialty foods. Like I can get Mexican chilies. I can sometimes get Asian stuff and some Indian stuff there, depending. But you can always get big things of rice and beans there. And don't forget, what is it? Azure. Azure may not have a place in your community, but that's another place too. And I love that you're talking about putting things in the Instant Pot, because I feel like if I wasn't here to cook, Cheryl could do all that in the Instant Pot, right? And I even made her make the rice in the Instant Pot for a while just to make sure she could be self-sufficient. It's not hard. Cheryl
I don't like it as much. I don't like the taste of it as much, but I can do it.
And so make it as easy as it can be. And like when you were saying, get that pound of beans or that 3 pounds of beans, cook them all, freeze them in 1.5 cups or 3 cups. Like if I was you, Stacy, I'd probably do 4 cups or something, because you got a big family, maybe even 6, whatever you're going to use in one serving. So if you're one person, if you would eat a can of beans, which is about 1.5 cups, or if you would like to just be able to grab something out of your freezer when you see a recipe for bean soup and just go plonk. And then you could do that once a month or once a week, depending on how often you have time. And the same thing with rice and grains. And one thing that was brought up, Apple, I put this up too. Apple says, I'm glad the keto crowd isn't enamored with cabbage. It's always affordable. Because like cauliflower became very popular and got really expensive, especially in Canada for a while. It was crazy. It was like $8 or $9 a head for cabbage, or for cauliflower.
That's crazy.
When I was doing one of the cookbooks, because my Canadian testers were like, we can't test this. And I was like, oh my God. But like celery root, it's a peasant food. You get a celery root, it could cost $12. But and same thing with grains, right? Like farro is very cool. Rice is fine. You don't need Rancho Gordo beans. Lentils and pinto beans are fine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I don't need anything fancy. I just get, the store brand of the store that's here, the local grocery store here. Some you may want to consider organic versus non-organic. We don't, at the McDougall program, we don't have a stance on that. We don't demand that people eat organic. There are reasons that a lot of people do choose that, and I do try to choose it when I can, but some things organic just price me out. I'm just like, well, it's just going to have to be regular conventional pinto beans this time, if I can't get my hands on some inexpensive organic option. But yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing about peasant food is really interesting because there are a couple things to think about. One is I came across somebody on Instagram the other day. I guess it was like a person that was suggested to me. And his whole deal was he was saying, don't eat oatmeal. It's peasant food. We used to give it to peasants just to keep them alive. Don't eat that. That's not your optimal breakfast. Your optimal breakfast is eggs and whatever else he was saying. I didn't even listen because I was just like, this guy's wacko. But, it really is, and I don't mean to go too deep with it, but it really is classist to say something like, oh, that's just peasant food, so don't eat it because it's for the poor. It's like, oh, are you crazy? That has nothing to do with whether it actually is good for you or not. And you know this.
Sorry, buddy.
You gals know this, that actually it turns out that the peasant food is the good food. It's the diet of the rich, of kings and queens that's killing us. That high fat, high sugar, high salt, rich food is literally killing us in droves now. The unfortunate truth of today, of modern day times, is that most all of us can't afford to eat like kings and queens. And that's why most all of us are dying of diseases of dietary excess. It honestly is that true. Dr. McDougall used to always love to talk about the gladiators, who were, at the time, they actually were slaves for entertainment. They fought for the entertainment of kings and queens and the wealthy. And they were kept more or less as slaves, and they were fed just grains, really, is all they were given. And they were the strongest and healthiest and most vibrant in the land. They were also the poorest. And so, what you're saying is exactly right. Stick with what Apple said, stick with the peasant food. Hey, fine, more power to us. We're going to save money and save our lives while we're at it.
Yeah, that's so true.
It is. And I do like the way you're talking about it being classist too, because, and I'm kind of, it's just so interesting that what people lived on for centuries, it's like people go, oh, I don't like root vegetables, or I don't like, well, your ancestors definitely lived on them, unless they were kings and queens, right? Now, we do have a starch solution question, and it's kind of long, so I'm going to start with she said it's a question about goal weight. It's 3 little things over here, so I'm going to start kind of with the question and then read this information underneath. So the question is, how can you know when you're actually at your ideal weight and dialing in starch versus non-starch? So she followed max weight loss and got down to 19 BMI. My doctor and friends thought I was underweight, so I started to eat more volume of starch and less green veg. And I did gain some weight, and I did restore some muscle mass that I guess I had lost. So perhaps I was underweight, and now I'm at an ideal weight. I felt fine at the lower weight and the current weight, and the only thing I changed was the percentage of non-starchy veg. So that's why her question is, how can you know when you're actually at your ideal weight and dialing in starch versus non-starch?
Great question. Fantastic question. I'm so glad we get to talk about this. Okay, first of all, ideal weight is actually largely subjective after we hit a few key parameters. Okay, so when you're losing weight, your number one priority is to get all of your biometric numbers in line. So we're talking about your cholesterol, your blood pressure, your triglycerides, your fasting blood glucose, all of those things, even inflammatory markers for people who have autoimmune illnesses and things like that. We want to see all of that fall into what is considered the normal healthy range. Okay. So while you're plugging away trying to lose weight, that's your number one goal. Number two, and this is not universal, but for most people, the BMI scale, especially if you are not super into weight training, you're not doing a ton of weight training, the BMI range is useful because you probably will land in there. And the BMI range that is given, it's given for your height, and it's usually a range of like, I don't know, 15 or 20 pounds or something like that. That what it's based on is people at your height have the best health outcomes if they find themselves in that range. That's what it's based on, the BMI scale. So that can be another priority as you're losing weight, is trying to just get in the healthy BMI range. Now, it sounds like you got down to 19 BMI. That is in the range. The healthy BMI range, I believe, goes from 18.5 up to 24.9, if I'm remembering correctly. So 19 is fabulous. It's on the lower end, right? Now, it is very common, we hear this all the time, that people stop losing weight or start gaining weight because they're being harassed by their family and friends about how thin they are. This can happen for a variety of reasons, but the main ones we see is, one, they've never seen you like that. So it is surprising and shocking and sometimes distressing to them to see you like that. Okay, that is the number one thing. Most of the time, all it takes is your family and friends just getting used to your new look, and they'll let you go, and they won't continue to harass you about it. But that's the first one. The other one, though, is what we call skinny fat, okay? And that is, yes, when you lose weight, you will. And I have this on good authority from Jack Dixon, who is our exercise physiologist. Brilliant man. We are so incredibly fortunate to have him as a part of our staff and as a part of the McDougall program. He's a tremendous resource, Jack Dixon. But he has said many times over the course of teaching at the program, you will lose muscle when you lose weight. Always. 100% of the time, we lose muscle. One thing you may be hearing in the news quite a lot is how much muscle people who are on weight loss drugs right now are losing, which is around 40%, meaning 40% of the weight that they're losing is muscle mass. The main problem with that, outside of we never want to be losing muscle mass, we do naturally lose muscle mass as we age, and it's problematic. It causes you all kinds of problems. It makes you at a much greater risk for falls and fractures and injuries and instability, balance issues. I mean, it's terrible, okay? We do not want to lose muscle, which is why resistance training, weight training, strength training is so vitally important as we age, okay? I'll get back to that in a second. But what's happening, unfortunately, with a lot of these folks that are on the weight loss drugs is that they're losing 40%, of their weight in the form of muscle mass. So only about 60% of it is body fat, right? Well, when they come off the drug or the drug stops working for them and they start gaining weight back, they're not gaining back body fat and muscle. They're gaining back only body fat. And so you can see how dangerous that is to lose weight so rapidly without sparing the muscles, right? You're losing all that muscle. And then if and when you are gaining it back, you're not gaining back your muscle that you've lost. So weight training is extremely important for folks who are on weight loss drugs. So if that's any of you, get yourself a weight training regimen stat, okay? But that advice applies to all of us. As we age, we will naturally lose weight. Lose muscle. It's called sarcopenia. And we need to be vigilant about preventing that muscle wastage and loss. So weight training is vitally, vitally important. But so back to your question about how do I know when I'm at my goal weight? So if you get down that low to that BMI, what I would have told you to do is, okay, now it's time to do some strength training. Your weight will naturally increase, usually just a few pounds when you start strength training, because you're building muscle. Muscle is very dense and it is weighty. And so your scale number will go up, but your body itself will not get bigger. It'll just get stronger, and you will look stronger, and you will look more well proportioned, and you will age yourself into old age in a very, very graceful way with a much lower risk of falls and other weight muscle loss related issues. So that's what I would have told you to do. But ultimately, once all your biometric numbers are in line, right where you want them to be, once you're down in the healthy BMI range, then your goal weight is very subjective. It's based on how you feel, your level of energy, how you feel in your body, how you feel in your clothes, how you feel you're performing, and all the things you want to do in life on a day-to-day basis, the activities of daily living, how you feel you're performing in your exercise, and those types of things. That's how you figure it out. But like I said, it is highly subjective. So I can't tell you your ideal body weight is 118 pounds. No, because when it comes down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pounds, it's based on your own feelings and your experience in your body.
Fergus is here distracting.
Hi, Fergus.
Say hi to everyone. He's like, no.
Sweet guy.
So I think that was all really good. Did you have anything to add to any of that? I think it's one of the things that gets confusing to people, though, to know when to do what.
Well, I'll tell you honestly, when people, and I'm not saying this is the case for the person who asked the question. It sounds like she's at her goal weight. But most of the time, people are asking me that way ahead of time, like when they have like 40, 50 pounds to lose. And I tell them, you know what, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I do tell them right at the offset, and I only recently became a believer myself in the power and importance of strength training, weight training. And I will tell them right at the beginning, please begin weight training as soon as possible, because that's what's going to spare those muscles. You do not want to lose your muscles. You just don't.
So do you have any recommendations on weight training or where people, okay.
Yes. Well, first of all, if you come to the 12-day program, like I said, we have Jack Dixon, our exercise physiologist, who's fantastic. Kathy and Cheryl can tell you how wonderful he is. And he gives you a basic routine, exercises, all kinds of resources of websites and equipment and everything that he recommends. So you're off to a great start. Once you've been through the McDougall program, you are off to a great start with regard to all of that. But what I did, I'll tell you, I started weight training. I had weight trained like on and off basically in my teens and 20s, just because it was cool. I just really, it wasn't anything formal or very consistent. But I began really, really consistently weight training this past September. And the way that I did it was my best friend was like, let's sign up for the gym together and we'll meet before work every day and we'll go to the gym. I'm like, that sounds great. So I went in there to tour the gym that she had suggested and I liked it. And so I texted her from the gym and I said, hey, I'm going to sign up. Like, are we doing this? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and sign up. And I signed up and she didn't end up signing up. And so I had a gym membership all of a sudden. But when I went to tour that gym, one part of what they had in there was they had this row of machines. It was like a circuit, it's just a row of machines. They're the ones that do everything for you, which, some people poo-poo machines. I absolutely do not. And I think any way that you can start that lowers the bar for you to feel like you can jump in, do it. And I still use some of those machines that I started out on, but there was a circuit. It was like maybe 8 machines or something, and they called it their power half hour. And they said, you can go through all these machines and do them over the course of 30 minutes and you will have done a full body workout. And so I was like, that's so easy. I can do that, you know? So I went through and figured out how much weight I could do on those machines. And I just consistently went in every other day and did that circuit for many months before I began to branch out. And I didn't feel intimidated anymore to go try other things in the gym. And the way that I did it was while I was doing my circuits, I watched what other people were doing on the other machines and thought, I can do that. I looked things up online. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos and things. You don't have to do it all at once. Something where the bar is nice and low, like I will go into the gym or into my bedroom or into my garage, whatever, and do 10 push-ups and 10 squats. And I'll do that in whatever modified version I need to do until it gets easier. And then I'll make it a little bit harder and up the ante. And you just keep building like that. So you can start very, very small, but start today. And I promise you this, if you feel intimidated about weight training or like it's super boring and you hate it, you've tried it in the past and you just can't stand it, it is just like any other habit. The more that you're willing to do it, even though you don't want to, eventually you will fall for it. You will fall in love with it. I absolutely love it so much. And it has made the biggest change in my body out of everything that I've done thus far in my life.
It's a good stress reliever too, yeah?
Oh, definitely. Yes.
I know, when I was going to when we were going to the Y and stuff like that, I tend to like those machines better too, just because I felt safer with them. Like, I don't know why.
Yes.
But I felt like I couldn't screw up my form. I couldn't hurt something because, it was this machine. There was only one way you could do it kind of thing. And so I felt like that's a really good place to start, especially if you don't have confidence yet on form and things like that. I mean,
Yes.
the leg ones and the pull-up ones and stuff, like, you can't unless you're going like this and standing really weird. I mean, the chances of you hurting something badly is very limited with the machines versus the free weights when you're starting out.
Cheryl, that is spot on. In fact, that's one thing that Jack told me when I told him I was starting that way. He said it's actually a really smart move because you learn how a motion is supposed to feel. So, for example, there's this machine, and I still go back to it all the time because I just love it. It's a pull-down machine in my gym.
The lat,
right? It's on that
the lat
circuit.
machine.
Yep, the lat pull-down, right? And I'm in a seat, and my feet are in this thing, and I'm just doing this over and over again. But the thing is, there's only one way my arms can go. And so when I progressed from that over to the cable machine, so it's not a machine, the cables, where you do the same motion, but you're more like loosey-goosey and wiggly and you can kind of screw it up. I didn't, because I knew what my arms were supposed to feel like doing this motion from doing the full-on machine for several months. So it is a really smart introduction to anything else that you want to do in the gym.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a great idea. And don't forget too, we have Angela Fischetti and we have Rose that have a few, like, you don't need to go and buy everything things. And does Jack have anything on YouTube? He doesn't. Or does he?
No, he doesn't.
I didn't think he did.
Yeah, he sees patients, so he takes on clients, private clients. So you guys can Google him, Jack Dixon. It's easier and less expensive for you to become a client of his if you come through the McDougall program. It's just one of the perks of going through the program, but he does take private clients even outside the McDougall program. So you can look him up. He's fantastic.
And I will try and find,
Kathy's going to put a link into the chat for that.
I'm at least putting in the thing from the Dr. McDougall about Jack so you guys can kind of see him and see what that's about. If you guys are watching the replay, and you don't see the chat, it can take a full 24 hours for the video to process and bring up the chat if you're watching the replay. So it will come up eventually.
And thanks, Apple, for starting that thread. That'll be great.
A thread to share fitness resources.
Fitness resources, yeah. In the Heartbeat group. That'll be great.
Now, Eslo said thanks. She was the one with the, or I'm assuming she, sorry if I'm misgendering you. Eslo doesn't really, but you do have a pink background, so that's where I'm going with that. I had a feel. My doctor was referencing things like body frame size, wrist circumference, and hip to waist ratio to prove to me that I was underweight. Are those things accurate or useful?
They are. I mean, so you don't need to use all of them. Any of them are somewhat helpful. Eslo, listen here, I'm just going to say this to you, and you know, I haven't seen you. I haven't put my eyes on you, and I don't know your history. So I'm treading very carefully, but this is, I think, for everybody, which is, as you lose weight, it is very common to go through a degree of body dysmorphia, where you have a really hard time seeing your body as it actually is. Sometimes what can happen, and I have been through this, and I think I still have it, and I lost my weight three years ago. So where I will look in the mirror and I will physically see big Stacy looking back at me. And that's what I see with my eyes. It is very confusing. And then I'll go by that same mirror, you know, half an hour later and see myself as I believe I truly am now, you know, like a trim Stacy. And it's really mentally exhausting. It is carrying around that little bit of body dysmorphia. It takes a while for the mind to catch up with the body and really see the body as it truly is. So, Eslo, I think if your doctor is sitting there pleading with you to understand that you're underweight and showing you all the evidence, that tells me that your doctor is probably right. And I say that very carefully because, of course, doctors can make mistakes and all of that. But your doctor obviously has some reason to be concerned about you being underweight. One of those concerns could be if you had blood work and you were low in sodium, or your electrolytes are looking off, your blood count in some way is looking off. There are certain markers in the blood counts that can indicate malnourishment and being underweight. And that is a dangerous scenario too. It's not as common as being overweight in our society. As you guys know, there are far more overweight people than there are underweight. But going underweight is also problematic and dangerous in ways. You know, it can really mess up our hormones. It can put you at risks for fractures and breaks, and you can lose your hair. And for women who are childbearing age, you can lose your menstrual period. And I mean, there's a lot that being underweight, you know, a lot of problems that can be created by being underweight. So, you know, I really haven't heard at all of a doctor pleading with a patient to recognize that they're underweight when that has not been the case. I just don't see it. Usually doctors, you know, just imagine, doctors are usually pleading with their patients to lose weight, right? So it's a rare occurrence for most all doctors out there to have to talk somebody away from getting too thin.
Now the mouse is giving us a hard time.
It's a day. How's your day? Everyone is singing your praises in the comments, by the way.
Yeah.
Everyone loves you.
I love you guys. Thank you.
Right? I think that's super helpful to know. And kind of talking about body dysmorphia, Apple was saying, yes, I lost my weight 5 years ago and still experience that. And I can tell you, on any given day, I have no idea. Like every once in a while, I'll be like, okay. But like over the cruise, we're cruising for 2 weeks, And I remember thinking, God, I know I've gained so much weight. I was looking in the mirror and I'm like, wow, how did that happen? I didn't even notice. And then the clothes that I expected not to fit were a little loose. So, like, I've kind of come to, from all my weight changes over my lifetime, I don't even try to count on that for me. But, like, having something like, oh, these are a pair of pants that were tight, I try to tie it to something physical. Do you have some other
Yes.
suggestions for people that are having trouble with that?
I am so glad you shared that, Kathy, because that is spot on. Using your clothing, your favorite pair of jeans, is usually the best thing. And I promise you guys, this is my issue. Because what also can happen is as you're on a weight loss journey, you can lose sight of how much of an impact your weight one way or another even actually has. So you get sort of like laser narrow minded on a few pounds. So you can feel like if you get on the scale today, I'm just going to give numbers for as an example. Let's say your goal weight is 130 pounds, okay? And you're at 133. You can literally see that number on the scale and feel gigantic all day long. And, let's say a week from now, you're 127, which is 3 pounds down. And you will walk around the world feeling like the fittest, hottest, thinnest thing that ever existed. But I promise you this, those 3 pounds up or down are 100% indiscernible to anyone around you. There is no visible difference in you 3 pounds, even 5 pounds up or 5 pounds down. But where you can discern it and you can feel it is in your own clothes. So I would encourage you all, find a pair of jeans. Jeans I like as an example because they're stiff most of the time. Don't get your stretchy jeans that were really super in, like, 8 years ago, that we were all wearing those super stretch jeans that you can gain or lose 25 pounds and still wear the same jeans. Not those. I'm talking about your Levi's, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, get your like somewhat stiff jeans and just put them on once a week. Whether it's summer or winter, put them on once a week and see how they feel. That is going to tell you so much more about, are you maintaining your weight or losing weight or whatever, than the scale. The scale is a useful tool. Okay. I'm not going to say throw your scales away, everybody. I'm not going to start a revolution, throw your scale away. It is useful. Okay. And it does give you some feedback about what you've been doing and whether it's working or not to get you one way or the other to your goals, right? But it is such an incomplete picture. It doesn't tell the whole story. And especially when you're weight training, the scale becomes almost useless. Because I'll give you an example. I want to share this. This is actually hot off the presses and it's about me. So I don't have to, give up anybody else's information. But when I started weight training, in September, I, went and had an in-body scan. Now, the in-body analysis scan, on the scale where you hold the things and they send electrodes and all this stuff through, whatever. Anyway, they somehow come up with how much of you is water and how much is fat and how much is lean body mass, which is muscle, right? And so I went and had an in-body scan done on my first day at the gym. It was just something that they offered for free when you join. So I went ahead and had it done. But then as I continued, or as I started my weight training journey and started doing that consistently, at some point I thought, I'm going to have a follow-up in-body scan. And I had one in the fall and everything looked really good. And I, had increased my lean muscle mass. I had decreased my body fat and all of that. But what I wanted to share with you guys that is so fascinating is that I just had it done again last week. And so the first time I had it done was in September, and then this past time I had it done was just in March here. Okay. I was down 2.3 pounds on the scale. I didn't even know that. I thought I had stayed about the same or maybe gone up. I don't know. But overall, my weight was down 2.3 pounds. Okay. And remember, I'm not in a weight loss stage. I'm in a weight maintenance stage. So that's great. I'm happy with that. but my skeletal muscle mass in poundage increased by 4 pounds. 4 pounds. So even though I'm only down 2.3 pounds overall on the scale, my muscle increased 4 pounds. So do you see how if I didn't have this information and I wasn't paying attention to the changes in my body, the scale tells me a completely just almost useless piece of information, which is down 2.3. Well, who cares? I mean, that's nothing. That's actually not really much of a change at all. But to increase my muscle mass in a stage in my life, midlife and beyond, where my muscle mass would be going down naturally every single year, instead I have increased it in like 8 months by 4 pounds. Amazing, right? My body fat percentage has gone down 5%. My total body fat percentage has decreased 5% in that time. And my visceral fat level went down, and my overall body score, which I guess is like it says the total score that reflects the evaluation of body composition, has increased by 2 points. So, and okay, last little piece of data that is so fascinating is they also, interestingly, in this in-body scan, they can give you what is your basal metabolic rate, which is how many calories your body burns doing nothing but keeping you alive. Okay, so if I were to lie down in bed all day long and just live, and that was it, I'm not doing anything, my basal metabolic rate from September to now has gone up by 50 calories. So I burn an extra 50 calories every single day, even though I weigh less. And the reason why, because remember, I've told you guys before, the smaller your body gets, the fewer calories your body burns each day. That's why as people continue to do what they've always done to lose weight, they hit a wall or a plateau. They stop losing weight and they're like, what's going on? I'm literally eating exactly the same and nothing has changed. Why am I not still losing weight? Well, it's because your body has gotten smaller. You weigh less. And so it takes your body fewer calories to do all the exact same things. So you need to be eating less calories, right? And that is very difficult to do. But like I told you guys, my weight has decreased, but my basal metabolic rate has increased. And the way that you do that is through building muscle. Muscle is metabolically active and increases your metabolism. So that's yet another reason to do weight training is you get more calories every day because of it. 50 more. What shall I use them on?
That's awesome. And it's a great way to explain it. Fergus
We got
is like,
cat hair just like all in front of us.
He's like, y'all been gone too long. So kind of on the opposite side, but maybe really interconnected, as Lydia says, I struggle with anorexia and struggled with dysmorphia since my 20s. I'm 5'3" and went down to 93 pounds.
This is a different person, you're saying?
Yeah. This is Lydia, a different person. So
yeah.
She's spoken up sometimes when people have kind of talked about what could feel like food restricting and mentioned that kind of triggers her, and so she doesn't do that, which I think most of us try to avoid, like, oh, that bad XYZ. And I feel like that's one of the things the McDougall program is like, okay, you make the next best choice, right? Or you make the next choice you make the good choice. So there's not a lot of guilt.
Absolutely. And, it's just very important to remember that you always have a choice. Lydia, you and everybody else, you can eat whatever you want, whenever you want to. When you are choosing to follow the guidelines of the Starch solution and Dr. McDougall, you're doing so because you've made a decision about the evidence. And the evidence shows that your chances of living a longer and healthier life are much greater when you choose a predominantly plant-based diet. And we know that a starch-centered diet is the most satisfying and sustaining diet within that plant-based diet that you're choosing. But that isn't a restriction, and that those aren't rules that anyone has placed on you. It is a lifestyle and a way of eating that you are choosing because you are looking for a certain outcome that is different from what you've always had. And so I think it's really empowering and important to remind ourselves at all times, hey, I can eat anything I want. In fact, I was talking to a patient last week, and she was saying she was at a gathering with some people, and she said, oh, I can't eat this and I can't eat that and this, that, and the other. And I stopped her, as she was talking. I said, whoa, sister, you've got to really change the way that you talk about what you're choosing to do. Because when we say, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, number one, it's very disempowering. It implies that somebody else has put a set of rules on you that you are being forced to follow. That is not the case. This is your journey and yours alone. And if you resonate with the things that Dr. McDougall teaches in the Starch Solution and elsewhere, and you've chosen that as your dietary pattern, that is your choice and your prerogative to stick with it or veer away from it as often as you'd like. But as you all know, the more you put into it, the more you can expect to get out of it. The closer you can follow it, the more closely you'll see your goal, your results reflect your efforts. It's just like so many other things in life. It's not about perfection and doing it 100%. It's about making progress all the time and getting closer and closer to our goals.
Yep.
And that's the whole thing right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if you can apply that same thing to getting healthier, it applies to so many different parts of your life.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah.
Betsy says, I feel like sometimes I have imposter syndrome over how I look and feel. Clothes are definitely helpful for me to snap out of it.
Great.
Clothes are sometimes an issue for me, and I think Kathy sees it a lot with me, and she'll often say, are you sure that you want to get that size? Because a lot of times I get it in my head that I still have to wear very, very large shirts. I feel more comfortable in the very, very large shirts. But I look better in the smaller shirts, but I don't always want to get them because all these things go through my mind that take me back to when I was almost 300 pounds. If I get that shirt and it fits me now, it's not going to fit me next week because it's going to shrink when I wash it, and then I'm never going to get to wear it again. And then all these things, they go through my mind. And I think this whole last trip, I was very guilty of buying everything a size bigger and asking everybody before I bought something, do you think this shrinks a lot? Right? I was asking all the cashiers, do these shrink a lot? And a lot of times they were very honest with me. Like the lady in the Dominican Republic.
There was one, she was like, it's going to shrink.
She was like, it's going to shrink. You want
the biggest one you can get.
She says it's going to shrink bad. It's going to go.
Yeah. Well, I think, here's the thing, Cheryl, is you're not going to be able to heal all of your personal emotional baggage around clothing overnight, right? That's not going to happen for any of us. That is a process that happens over years, right? Mm-hmm. For all of us. However, I do think there's value in having just one more tailored pair of pants and maybe a more tailored shirt. I have a couple, actually this type of shirt is exactly what works for me because there's no stretch or give to this. It is, a button-down shirt. And if my arms feel like the shirt is tight, it's because the arms have had a really nice holiday season or whatever, And so there's certain shirts that I know exactly how they're supposed to fit me. They have fit me well in the past. And so if they start to feel a little snug, I know time to tighten things down a little bit. Mm-hmm. I am never responding with restriction, meaning I'm not responding to that feeling and going, well, you can't eat lunch today, or you're just going to have to cut all your meals in half. Because remember, with the starch solution in the McDougall way of eating, it is never about eating less. It's about eating more strategically. So really taking advantage of the principles of calorie density that Jeff Novick, our registered dietitian, teaches us in the program. He's phenomenal. He does have quite a lot on YouTube. Old stuff, like 9 years old, but it still all rings true. He's wonderful.
Yeah.
But calorie density. So when I say my arms feel tight in a shirt, and I know that means something, it doesn't make me go, oh, well, skip lunch or go on a fast or whatever. I just go, well, I need to lower the overall calorie density of what I'm taking in. Maybe I need to eat a little bit less bread, or, yep, I've been getting into the nuts a little bit lately. I need to scale back on that. And that's how I maintain my weight. And it's, there are discouraging moments. There are definitely moments that I feel chunky in my clothes, and that's not a fun feeling, but it really does guide me really nicely back to what I know to work for weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sounds great. Now, the reason I have this look on my face is, so we're coming to the part of our show where we're going to talk about protein questions.
Oh, okay. No problem.
So there were a couple. So I'm going to kind of just bring them out, and then you can do the protein spiel. So Davinka says, is it possible to, and how can you get enough protein without using protein powder? Later on, she also adds the typical products that have high protein are also high fat, which will keep you out of a calorie deficit to lose weight. And then Kitty Mommy, these are kind of similar, and even though this is very detailed and I have no idea. So Kitty Mommy says, Joey from Plant-Based Dads says your body metabolizes protein differently and uses 30% more calories in the process than carbs and fat, and the calories used to burn fat are the lowest. And so now I shall back out my non-protein experience or knowledge out of this conversation.
Right. Okay. So what it sounds like what Joey's talking about, if I'm hearing this person correctly, is the thermic effect of foods, which basically it's how many calories it takes to burn certain foods and macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And it is true. It is true that protein has an incredibly high thermic burn or whatever. Yeah, gosh, my terminology is not right. It's just not something that I talk a ton about. So, but that's what it is it's the thermic effect of foods. And so, yes, it does take more energy for your body to burn protein than it takes for it to burn fat. Now, carbohydrates a little bit different, because remember that when we're talking about carbohydrates, we are putting an umbrella over things that are nothing alike. So when you talk about carbs, you're talking about things like broccoli, Twinkies, beans, whole grain cooked oatmeal. Do you see how Oreos, donuts, you see all of this that falls under the umbrella of carbs? Does that seem fair? That all of those things are put on an equal playing field? Okay, so let's get down into this. Complex carbohydrates, which are whole plant foods, take a lot of energy to burn, okay? Because they have fiber, which takes a lot of energy for your body to process. They have bulk, they're large and bulky. That takes your body energy and work to process those foods. So complex carbohydrates do take a lot of energy to burn. It takes your body almost nothing to burn a Twinkie. It takes literally nothing to burn a bottle of Coca-Cola. Okay, nothing at all. It's so easy for your body to process those things. The problem with those foods, besides the fact that there are toxins and all kinds of stuff in them that are no bueno for you, is that when your body can easily burn through something, it's not satisfying, so it doesn't keep you full. And what you end up doing is overeating beyond your calorie equilibrium or the calorie deficit. If you're trying to lose weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit. But if you're drinking Coca-Colas, you're not going to be able to be in a calorie deficit because you're taking in liquid calories that are just your body's just processing and using so easily. You're never going to get to fat burn. You're never going to be able to burn your body fat off because you're just taking in liquid, easy calories. Also, please remember that foods are not one or the other. They're not protein, fat, carbs. That is a misnomer completely. And unfortunately, everybody's fixated on it. So so let's say chicken, for example. So most people would look at chicken and call that a protein, right? In fact, you'll go to a restaurant and they'll ask you what kind of protein you want. Drives me insane. And I don't want to go off on that because you guys will see how wangey I am if I start wigging on that, and I'm just not going to do it. But what if, what if I called chicken what it really is, which is sodium, predominantly sodium. So instead of saying, about all the, benefits of protein, we harp on the fact that chicken is incredibly high in sodium. It's also high in saturated fat, but nobody calls that a saturated fat. Nobody calls it a fat. They call it a protein because we've got this reductionist mindset right now out there in the world of nutrition in our society where everything is something. It's a protein, it's a fat, it's a carbohydrate. Whereas when you look at complex carbohydrates, which is our foods, right? Starches, beans, for example, they have fat. Yes, very low fat, which is exactly, why we promote a low fat diet is because all of the natural whole plant foods are naturally low in fat for the most part. There are a few exceptions, but beans are low in fat. They are high in fiber, high in protein, high in carbohydrates, right? But most mainstream people out there promoting whatever they're promoting, keto or whatever, would call beans a carbohydrate. But does that tell the whole story of what a bean is? Absolutely not. So all plant foods have protein. The way that animals have protein is because you're eating the protein that they ate through them. Meaning a cow goes out and grazes in the pasture on grass, predominantly grass, right, is their diet. They eat tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of grass. And so then we slaughter that cow and we eat their muscle, which is made and literally built from grass. But unfortunately, because we're eating their muscle instead of, vegetable matter, we're also getting all of their hormones, any toxins, any illnesses, bacterial or viral that animal carried. And, we are contributing to the demise of our planet and the suffering of animals and all of that. In addition to that, rather than just going out and finding vegetation for ourselves and eating that, it's like taking out the middleman. So back to the original question, which I think was, is it possible to get enough protein on this diet? Yes. Look at me. Okay. I've been eating this way for 8 years. Am I wasting away? I run marathons, okay? I weight train every day. I chase after 4 young boys. I am fit and healthy in my midlife, thriving and doing well. Is everything perfect? No, it is not. But am I falling over from protein deficiency? Absolutely not. I did all of this without protein powder or protein bars or protein drinks or protein anything. It's beans, rice, corn, quinoa, barley, oatmeal, edamame, soy milk, body by all those things. 8 years.
That's
Right.
awesome.
Right. I think those are all really great ways of putting it too, because protein has become such a weird topic.
Yeah.
Like, I have a lot of friends who are just like, can we just stop talking about protein? Like, we've been talking about protein since 1983.
Yeah.
But
Well, it will
Comes
always
and goes in these
ebb and
cycles.
flow.
Yeah.
Yes, it
yeah.
will.
Yeah. Now, Eslo, who was saying that she's practicing maximal weight loss maintenance and lifting weights, she feels great. That was our original question. She also says, I know you've said you eat oatmeal. How do you prepare it? Do you use sweetener, plant milks? Do you ever add riced cauliflower to oatmeal to introduce a non-starchy veg for maintenance?
No, definitely not. To maintain your weight, you're not trying to drive the calorie density lower. Okay, so the calorie density of cooked oatmeal is approximately 325 calories per pound. That is for cooked oatmeal, whether it be, steel cut oats, oat groats, or rolled oats. They're all approximately the same. Okay, the less processing you do to a food, the more work your body has to do to digest it, generally speaking, which is a good thing. You want your body having to get in there and all the roughage and digest it. It does burn more calories that way. Okay, so we want to steer you towards the lesser processed versions of everything. So that would be steel cut oats, oat groats, and rolled oats. They're all minimally processed, right? They're about 325 calories per pound of cooked oatmeal. Now, in order to maintain your weight, most people need to eat on average around 600 calories per pound. It's like 570, but let's just call it 600, nice round number, okay? On average, okay, over the span of the day, you're eating on average 600 calories per pound, most people, okay? So you see how oatmeal at 325 calories per pound does not need to be further diluted. It is well under that 600 calorie mark. Now, some people add riced cauliflower to oatmeal because they're trying to get more veggies in. Hey, fabulous. Some people do it because they like the taste. Yay, wonderful. Some people do it because it helps them be more regular. Fabulous, I love it. But please don't do it in an effort to lose weight or maintain your weight, because oatmeal is already calorie dilute enough that you do not need to further dilute it. And when you do so, you run the risk of not being satisfied by your bowl of oatmeal like you would have been if you had used all oats rather than trying to cut it with riced cauliflower.
Yeah, taste is what keeps us, if you start changing the taste of something that you love, then,
you.
especially for me, she can change whatever. She's like, ooh, let me doctor this more. But like for me, I like a nice bowl of oatmeal. I like it the way I like it, and I don't like it messed with. And I don't even like when she puts sweet potato in it. I'm like, that's
I'll put sweet potato in anything.
you've just changed that bowl
So
of oatmeal for me.
I try to make plain oatmeal, and then, because it's spring, it's time for blueberry lemon oats in my world, but not hers. But I love what you're saying too, and one of the things is it's easy to try and get in there and massage something. Like what you said, like if you're wanting to have savory oats, adding cauliflower, kale, some curry, that sounds like a great idea if that's what you're in the mood for. But I think people are always, well, can I make this from 300 to 257?
Right,
And
exactly. And it's not just that it's not satisfying taste-wise. What I should be saying is satiating. So what that means is you get full and you stay full, and it sustains you until that next meal. If you go too low on your calorie density of a meal, you run the risk of it not being able to sustain you and carry you to that next meal. And so you end up going back and eating again anyway. So you see you've undone the work of driving that calorie density low, because remember, your body registers satiety in a few different ways. One is volume. Okay, so you have stretch receptors in your stomach. You need to eat enough volume of food for that food to hit on those stretch receptors for your body to go, cool, we got enough. So that's one of them. There are nutrient receptors in your stomach that measure very accurately, it turns out, the amount of fat and protein and carbohydrates and nutrients that you've taken in. So there's stretch receptors, there's nutrient receptors, and then there is weight. So even the weight of the food in your stomach needs to hit a certain point for your stomach to send signals to your brain to register satiety. And when you try to lower the overall calorie density of a food by adding in non-starchy veggies, you lose the weight and at times the bulk. And so you may feel satisfied because you feel full, but because it's so low in calories, like the riced cauliflower is so low in calories, your body processes that out and then you're hungry again like half an hour later because you didn't eat enough of the starch. So the starch is the whole reason that Dr. McDougall didn't name it the, low in calorie density solution or the eat a bunch of vegetables solution. He named it the starch solution, and he based his entire philosophy on how humans are meant to eat based on the fact that starches are full, they're bulky, they're high in vitamins and nutrients, and they're high in fiber and weight. The starch is the solution. The starch is going to be the thing that satisfies and sustains you from meal to meal.
I had a very interesting experience on the MSc on the holistic holiday with this, which seems very weird. So they made oatmeal incredibly badly. So, okay, so it really was like gruel. And like, I loved some kanji, and kanji is delightfully flavored Asian rice gruel, right? I'm okay. So it can be a little bit odd for an American texture, but this was like soup. It was like a cream of soup. So,
Yeah.
and then you'd see, like the last time it was finally cooked enough. So I'd eat my bowl of that and I'd put all whatever fruit or things I could put in there. But after the first day, I was like, good Lord, this is not going to work for me. And you could hardly find a bowl. So it wasn't like I could get 6 bowls of it and go away. But what I ended up doing for the rest of those 7 days is I'd get my oatmeal and I'd take a plate because there were no bowls, and I'd get my brown rice and then I'd take both over. And it wasn't that I wouldn't have a salad or something like that, but I think I tried just doing, because I eat a lot of fruit when I'm on cruises because it's free and somebody else cut it up. And, and oftentimes you can get, like we had dragon fruit and passion fruit and all these things that are very expensive where we are.
And I ate all the watermelon I could
You
hold.
did you ate a lot of watermelon. And if that's the worst thing we ever do, I think I'm okay with that. But I noticed so quickly, because I make things fairly thick. My oatmeal I make thick. And it was, because you think oatmeal is oatmeal is oatmeal. No. Mm-mm. No. And, Beth says, yeah, I agree with the soupy, yucky oatmeal on the holistic holiday at Sea Cruise. Yeah. It was kind of weird. I'm like, it's not that MSC doesn't have oatmeal on all their cruises, but we had another cruise and their oatmeal was soupy too. So I think that's just how they make it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I mean, you would know better than I, Kathy, but they're always in those carafes, and I think it's hard because you don't want to have so little water that you run the risk of it burning right at the bottom of the carafe, and so they probably feel like they have to compensate by putting an outrageous amount of water in there, which of course in time does cook down, but unless you're like scraping the bottom of the carafe, you're the last person to get the oatmeal, your oatmeal is going to be runny.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a more of a technical thing that they had to do it that way, but it was like,
I think they failed at some stuff. I think they need a couple of re-education just from other cruises I've been on. I don't expect everything just to be to my personal taste either. And like on Celebrity, on their buffet, they have oatmeal every day, but it's cooked with milk. Mm-hmm. So also just know as a note, if that's something you absolutely want to avoid, which I do, I always ask. But on Celebrity, you can go to the spa cafe that's free also and order apple cider oatmeal. So they go and they make fresh oatmeal with apple cider, put fresh apples on it, and up there you can take all the fresh blueberries and fresh berries that they have and put it on. I'm like, you want to give me that for free? I'm going to be here every day. So don't even go to one place and go, oh, I guess they don't love me. Make sure that you know, probably even if you said to the person there, how can I get something? They might say, oh, there's breakfast in the dining room, and they can do that for you. Oh, Tracy Reese says, how was the fruit on your cruise? Could a raw vegan make it work? Pretty much, as long as, depending on what you're going to put on stuff. There was tons of fruit, I felt like, on both. The MSC was more melons, your typical cantaloupe, honeydew, watermelon, cut up fruit with some berries. There was a more elaborate setup on Celebrity with like some whole dragon fruit to the side, whole passion fruits to the side. There were pears. Like I was so excited to have a ripe pear in March.
There was always a pear in our room. Like, there would always be this paper towel, like this like napkin from the restaurant would be like sitting on the desk, and I'd be like, "What is that?" And then there'd be a pear in it every time she'd like swipe a pear to bring upstairs.
Right, but I think, Tracy, if you know what cruise line you're going to go on, like it's not impossible on Virgin, but they don't have a buffet. They have a salad bar, so but you should be able to talk to someone before you get on and ask some questions. But that's some of the information we're trying to put together too, so people can have an easier time. Eslo says, thanks, I'm definitely eating a lot of starch, but I know with weight maintenance, non-starchy veg is important too, right? Do you try to eat a certain amount of pounds of non-starchy veg a day?
No. So how much your ratio of starches versus non-starchy veggies and fruit, like what your personal ratio is, just is completely individual. So for me, I can virtually eat almost 100% starches and maintain my weight just fine. Now, I love fruits and vegetables, so I definitely have those in my diet, and I'm never going to stop because I love them and they're so health promoting and wonderful. But also, I'm incredibly active, which I've shared with you guys before. And so my personal ratio is going to be different from, person A and person C. And it's just trial and error is what it is you eat what you want to eat. You fill up on the foods that you love and enjoy that are whole plant foods. And then you see what happens on the scale. If the scale starts to go up instead of maintaining, then yes, you can introduce more non-starchy vegetables and fruits to try to move things back the other way. But that's what that's for. Non-starchy vegetables and fruit are used for weight loss by creating more bulk, taking up more space in your meals for less calories, fewer calories. And so as you maintain, it's the same thing, except that you're not in weight loss anymore. And so your calorie deficit doesn't need to be there. So you can actually take in more calories per day by just eating more starches and fewer fruits and vegetables if you want. But it depends on so many different factors. But the way you find out is you watch the scale and see what happens.
And this may be a silly thing to ask, because I know you've kind of said before you typically eat mostly maximum weight loss foods.
Mm-hmm.
If you're
Yes.
in maintenance, is that a typical thing, or would you kind of move to the normal starch solution typically, or how does that work?
Well, I'll say this. So I was actually just talking to some of our alumni about this just, like an hour ago or something. And what we were saying, there are a few of us there who were saying that even at our goal weights, we still need to eat mostly maximum weight loss style, meaning the predominant thing in our diets is still whole natural plant foods, water rich cooked plant foods like potatoes, beans, rice, oatmeal, fruits and vegetables. All of those things that are great for weight loss are also our primary foods in weight maintenance, except that you can add in a few richer things here and there. So I'll give you an example. Like I'll tell you what I'm eating today, and this is weight maintenance, okay? And so for breakfast, I had a huge bowl of oatmeal with blueberries and some cocoa powder, a little bit of cocoa powder in there, and a splash of soy milk on top. But it was a big bowl because I run in the mornings and I'm hungry for breakfast. And I had a tablespoon of flaxseed in it too. So that's breakfast. For lunch today, I had a bowl of soup that is mostly vegetables, but also had some lentils in it. And it was a big, probably like this big bowl of soup. And I had that alongside a veggie burger. I use on occasion, the actual veggie burgers. There's no oil or animal products or nuts or seeds in those. They're just made out of vegetables and starches. And so I air fried one of those and put it on 2 whole wheat pieces of bread with lettuce and pickles and some mustard and some onion, a lot of onion. I told Kathy right before we got on, I was like, I have really bad onion breath. I'm glad you can't smell it through the camera. But anyway, I had a veggie burger and a bowl of soup for lunch. That was lunch. In a little while here, I will have a snack in the afternoon, which I always have the same thing, which is a small Japanese sweet potato that I bake in my air fryer. I used to cook those in my Instant Pot, and Beth and some others encouraged me to try them in the oven. And so I put them in it's an air fryer toaster oven combo, and I stick it in there and put it on bake for 350 degrees. And it's, small little thing, and leave it in there for 30 minutes. And then I do that way ahead of time so that it's ready and it's crisp and it's ready to go when I'm ready to eat it. But that's my afternoon snack. And it's, Japanese sweet potato, probably about that big. And then for dinner, I'll have a big salad just because I love salad, not because you have to eat salad, but I love salads. And so I'll make a big salad. It'll have beets and onions and hearts of palm and balsamic vinegar and probably some like white beans on that. And I may have a little pasta with marinara sauce, and that'll be my food for the day. And I'll have if I get hungry in between, I'll have some veggies and fruit sprinkled in there. But that's a day of, maintaining my weight. And for me, it's a lot of food, but I burn a lot of calories. So, but if I were in weight loss mode, I may skip the buns for the veggie burger, or I may skip throwing, I don't know what other examples there are, but, if I were going to put, let's say I decided for dinner I was going to have some walnuts or something on my salad. Well, in weight loss mode, I would not have those on the salad because they're so calorie dense and they add calories so easily. So that's kind of the difference between weight loss versus weight maintenance for me. They're very small changes.
Thank you for all those details. The question is getting a little more specific, so I'm going to let you do that. So Eslo says, thanks, I won't do rice cauliflower with oats. Do you use sweeteners or soy milk with your oatmeal? Or is soy milk too high fat to use in oats? How much soy milk do you drink? So it's still these very specific, what can I put in my oatmeal questions, which I'm going to let you answer too, but what I'm going to say too is if you have that many questions to answer about oatmeal, I wonder if you need to look at how you're looking at things, because it seems like you're making things very hard for yourself. Like that's what I do when I go, oh, I want to get, should I have oat groats? I see people all the time, why, can I make that with oat groats? Of course you can. But do you want it in 5 minutes or do you want it in an hour? And I'll let you answer the rest of the questions.
Yeah, well, and the other issue is that this person, I'm happy to answer that the best I can, but it sounds like they're asking about me specifically, and that's almost useless because you and I are different
Yes.
people and our bodies are doing different things. So I will say that I advise my patients to cook their oatmeal with water. You cook it with water, that lowers the calorie density rather than cooking it with plant milks. If you're trying to lose weight, okay, that's an easy thing, is to eliminate or minimize your sources of liquid calories, which do not provide satiety, but they do provide calories. So cook your oatmeal. I don't personally use sweeteners. You can. It's a really good idea to begin to move towards natural sweeteners, meaning fruit in your oatmeal to make it sweet. So bananas are fantastic about that. Blueberries, there's all, you can use mangoes, whatever fruit you like, putting that in the oatmeal a lot of times will sweeten it enough. And you can transition from whatever level of added sweeteners you use now, you can begin to transition towards using natural sources like fruit. Um, and it's fine to put a little splash of plant milk on top of your oatmeal if you'd like, a little splash, but you don't want to be pouring, a bunch of plant milks on your food, and you certainly don't want to be drinking glasses of plant milks. Again, those are liquid calories, which are empty calories in the sense that they contribute calories without contributing satiety. And when we're going off of the principles of calorie density, as we do with the McDougall diet, we're looking for sources of hidden and unnecessary calories that don't provide for our satiety. I hope that helps. Hey, Kathy, just so you know, I've got to wrap up in the next couple of minutes.
That
Okay.
So
sounds great.
maybe a couple more quick questions.
I don't know that I have a lot of other questions. Beth is talking about kind of coming to terms with, she got to her goal weight. She tried adding a few foods back in that resulted in weight gain, and then just kind of wrapped her head around not adding back in bread or nuts for her, which was a huge mental undertaking.
I think it's very important to understand that everybody's body is different. And so even like Kathy and I, sometimes we have to eat completely differently. We put completely different things on our oatmeal. Sometimes I'll eat rice, she'll eat potatoes, just because our bodies react completely differently to food.
But that's a little different than this. So, like, this is a very specific higher calorie density. So, like, if you're working on the starch solution and you realize, oh, I had a bagel. How does that work? Or how am I feeling different than oatmeal? Or like trying to go back.
Oh,
That's
when
kind of,
you're adding things back in.
yeah.
Okay.
Does that make
Yeah.
better sense? I may not have asked the
Yeah,
question
no, that's fine.
perfectly.
I just want to clarify one quick thing, and I think what Cheryl said is so incredibly accurate, which is, everybody does things differently. For one person, rice may be the most satisfying starch, and another person it's potatoes, and for another person it's neither. It's, pasta or it's beans or whatever. So paying attention to your body and how different foods make you feel, so important. Okay, it's so important. Asking me what I do, it's like interesting information, but honestly, it shouldn't inform any of your decisions because we're just different people. The only thing I want to caution you against is don't think that everybody's body is different. So Cheryl should be on keto and Kathy should be on the Mediterranean diet and Stacy should be on the McDougall diet and so should be on paleo. That is not what we're talking about, okay? Everybody's body, when it comes to how your body runs best, what types of food your body runs best on a larger scale, meaning we're not talking about potatoes versus rice. We're talking about beef versus beans, okay? That is where I'm saying, no, actually, we're all the same. And just hear me, because I've just finished saying, yes, we're all different. We have different preferences. We have different things that satisfy us better and things like that. But all of the scientific evidence supports the stance that a predominantly plant-based diet is the most health-promoting diet that a human can consume. Some people will give you the argument like, well, our ancestors were hunters and gatherers, and so they were killing food and eating meat all the time, and so that should be our diet. Guys, that worked great when it was survival that we were after. They're just trying to survive to reproduce at that point in human history. But that's not what we're trying to do here today in 2025. What we're trying to do here is stay healthy, stay out of the hospital, and live as long as we are given healthfully, and not end up in the nursing home and not have all of our appendages amputated off and those types of things. That is a very different thing from what worked to survive back in the hunter-gatherer days. So right now we know, based on science and all the scientific evidence, that a predominantly plant-based diet is the most health promoting for everybody.
We totally agree. So I know you have to go. You've given us many words of wisdom, as always, and I appreciate you being here. I just appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here with you all. I hope to come back and join you again real soon.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
All
definitely.
right. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.
Bye.